Hello, hello, hello. It's time for another edition of Political Breakfast. We are so glad that you are here listening on WABE. I'm your host, Lisa Rayam, and with me today, our strategists, of course, Tharon Johnson and Brian Robinson, and our producer, Lily Oppenheimer. Here's some political news. I want to jump right in with this. You may have missed about Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. State Democrats are calling it a Brian's blunder, and state and national Republicans are slamming him because of this.
What do Mike Collins, Buddy Carter, and Jon Ossoff have in common? They all failed and shut down the government. It's what happens when you send career politicians to D.C. To change Washington, we need an outsider. Derek Dooley for U.S. Senate.
Why would they be slamming Governor Kemp for that?
Great question. And this, I tell you, let me bring you inside Republican circles. This has been a big topic of discussion in Republican insider talks over the last week because it's got such big implications. So that Dooley ad is paid for by a outside group funded by Governor Kemp's political operation. And the NRSC, which is the political arm of the U.S. Senate Republicans, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, attacked Governor Kemp for it because they said he was using the Democratic talking points against the Republicans on the Hill as it pertains to the government shutdown. So this was all aired before the shutdown was ended last week. So certainly the Senate Republicans are angry. Tim Scott, one of the senators from South Carolina, is the chairman of the NRSC. He is somebody who would have had to have signed off on the social media post that NRSC did attacking Governor Kemp by name. And Tim Scott's somebody who knows and respects Governor Kemp. So they had to be super angry to greenlight not only an attack on a Republican governor, but the guy who happens to be the chairman of the Republican Governors Association right now. I mean, Brian Kemp has a national profile, a national platform, and they were like going after him for this. I know for a fact the White House was unhappy with that ad for the same reasons. They felt like it was off message, attacking Republicans as opposed to the Democrats, and echoing Democratic talking points. What's interesting to me, Tharon and Lisa, is the White House did take note of this. Will this make it much harder for Derek Dooley to get that coveted Trump endorsement? Does this push it more toward Mike Collins, where frankly, it always seemed to be going in that direction anyway? So I think this could have longer term implications for an ad that probably didn't move the needle that much in real time.
Tharon, are Democrats even paying attention to this? Is there a need to?
Absolutely. And Lisa, I am shocked that Brian Robinson, and I'm calling Brian Robinson by his government name, because I said this weeks ago. I said, now correct me if I'm wrong, B-Rob, that if I was Derek Dooley, I would do an ad that says that the two members of Congress who are currently serving right now is the reason why your inflation is high, the reason why the tariffs are not working, the reason why we're in a federal shutdown. I mean, like, you got to wrap all these things around their neck. And so, full disclosure, Jon Ossoff, don't worry, I didn't talk to anybody in the Dooley campaign in those folks, but they're doing exactly what I said Derek Dooley should be doing. The one thing that, and I want to be very clear for our listeners, I am all in with Jon Ossoff. So voting for him, all in. I got to say that, Lisa, because, we got some haters be listening to this show. So I actually think that Jon Ossoff is sitting back and saying this is great for him. Because the more dysfunction, the more dissension you have in this Republican primary, the better for him, right? Because clearly there's a lot of infighting going on. But if you're Derek Dooley and you're Brian Kemp, the only way you can get some traction is to make you be what? And I said this, B-Rob, again, you didn't give me no credit. I say he needs to be the new outsider. I talked about how David Perdue, and my mama said she liked David Perdue in that jean jacket, right? Yeah. I think that if Derek Dooley has got an opportunity to do something, he's got to label himself as an outsider. So I want to let all the folks know in this Kemp committee, wherever it is, Brian, that thank y'all for listening to me on this podcast and doing what I've been saying that they should be doing for a long time.
Outsider.
As the outsider. But in all seriousness, this is tricky because Governor Brian Kemp, we've said this, Lisa. I just believe where they got through drinking those Budweisers, and I've asked the first lady whether or not she was drinking Budweisers or not. I think she's more of a wine gal. They knew that coming out and being for Derek Dooley, it was a highly likely outcome that you were not going to get the Trump endorsement, and if you were going to have to earn it. So for him to release this ad, they're saying, hey, we still want to be in competition for the Trump endorsement, but man, we got to make some headways, right? Collins just had a good fundraising period. Carter is loaded with money. And so what's interesting here, though, is that, listen to this, listeners, the folks in the U.S. Senate, the Republican Senatorial Committee, is going after the RGA chairman for funding this ad. And so I think that Brian Kemp is just putting a lot on the line for Derek Dooley. We know there's close connections there. The ad is controversial. We're talking about it. But I just believe that also, while Collins and them, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, a poll came out. I think Collins was in the lead. Carter was second. And Dooley was Dooley kind of like a close third?
Yeah, he's growing. And Carter seems to be kind of stalled out. Yeah. But Collins is growing on the top end. Dooley's growing on the bottom.
So Collins is growing on top end, and Carter's kind of stalled out, and Derek has got a lot of room for growth. You got to go after the second person, right? So you got to make it to a runoff. And the last thing I'll say is this, Lisa. Based on the results that we had recently with the PSC, everyone is in the room now. We're all looking at the data. I don't know if the Trump endorsement is as sexy and as powerful as it once was, because we also saw a poll where Burt Jones, who has all the money and also has the Trump endorsement, while he is number one in the race for governor right now, based on polling, still early. But I don't know if it gets you as much as you need. Now, do you want to have it in a Republican primary? Absolutely. But does it have as much cachet and as much sex appeal to it, and voters just going to go with you because Trump supports you? I don't know if it's that effective anymore. But to B. Rob's point, definitely, I don't think Derek Dooley, if they keep this up, right, which they may or may not, is trying to actually get that endorsement. I think they're trying to make a distinction between, hey, we're not Washington insider Republicans, right? And they're the reason why the country is headed in the direction it's heading. So I think that was his only play. And it's just very kind of shocking that the governor is quadrupling down on it, and making sure that he does everything he can for his guy.
Well, in the words of Brian, the ripping of the faces, off of faces starting to begin.
That has been part of the Dooley versus Collins campaigns from the very beginning. It is very negative, and you kind of have to be in the echo chamber, a little bit of the insider, to really notice it, because a lot of it's on social media. But it is super nasty between those two campaigns. It is very personal. And Carter may be a beneficiary of it as a third person who's not involved in that mud pit that is developing. Carter's going to have to go and prove himself and somehow get some space in this attention economy where Dooley and Collins are monopolizing the attention. Carter's not, and he's got to figure out a way to do it. And it's really hard to do. You can't manufacture it. You got to kind of have to have a skill set for it. I think Collins has a skill set for it. I think Collins' attacks on Dooley give Dooley a platform to fight back and get some attention. But one thing that Tharon ended there with, he did in the form of a question. I think it's the right question. I think Tharon has raised the question of the cycle for Republicans. What impact does the Trump endorsement have today? It's not what it was in 2018, where it was overwhelmingly decisive, where the entire party went with you. There is a little more separation between the people and the president today as far as them making their own decisions. Tharon's right. It's still something you want. It is, by all indicators, a net positive. So you want to have it. Burt Jones will benefit from having it. If I am the White House and I have endorsed Burt Jones, I want to know why he's not in the 30s with the endorsement. And so I think that kind of gets to the point that Tharon is making. Is it something that sends you soaring into the atmosphere in the polls? We haven't seen that. And we've seen Collins growing in the polls, even without that endorsement, one that he very well may get in the future if Trump feels like he is on a pathway to winning. Trump does not want to get engaged if he thinks that the guy or gal he's picking may lose. He just wants to pick winners and be on that team. So he's going to wait and see how this goes.
All righty. Well, it's ramping up. It is ramping up, and we are here to talk about it, and we appreciate you all for checking in. Let's do it again soon.